Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the CyberGizmo, I thought it might be fun to try installing Ubuntu 2010 on a Raspberry Pi 4, but I'm not going to use an SSD right after this. So the first place where you need to start in this process is to go download the Raspberry Pi image. And so let's go do that. Let's go over here to the downloads, and you'll find it right here under the Ubuntu for IoT. And if you scroll down, you'll find this is 2004 up here, and you'll notice that it has the various Pis supported, but 2010 desktop is right here. Also, the server version is available as well for all three platforms, but just the desktop is available for the Raspberry Pi 4. And remember, it has to be 4 gig or more. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so that's down, and then what I'm going to use is one of these. This is a Samsung T5 SSD. It holds about, I think this is 500 gig or so. Let me just check. Yeah, it holds 500 gig. I'm going to use Etcher to burn that ISO image onto this. So I'm going to plug that in over here, and it should pop up. There it is. It has a previous boot on it, but that's all right. We are going to fix that. I think I have Etcher out here. Let me just look. Oops, it'll be on the desktop. Yeah. So let's bring that up. And then I'll pick that's the image that I just downloaded. So let me just pull that down a bit. And then we'll select the target, and there's the drive that we want to use right there. And we'll select that. Yeah, it's going to say that, this drive is ridiculously big, and you sure you want to do this? Yeah. So then we'll give it a sudo password, because we are writing to a device that's owned by root. Now, I had previously set up the Pi to boot from a USB device, so you might want to go review the instructions. They're on the Raspberry Pi Foundation website. It actually does have a BIOS, and so you can, if you updated the firmware on your Raspberry Pi 4, you should be able to use the USB boot process. And so I have already done that. There's nothing I need to do other than plug it in. But if you have a Raspberry Pi you've had for a while, Raspberry Pi 4 or 4 gig or more that you've had for a while, you may want to check to see if you need to update your BIOS on the Raspberry Pi. And you'll have to have Raspbian up to do that. Sorry about that, but that's the way it works. So you would do an RPI update, RPI-update firmware, I think it is. But there's instructions on the website you can follow to do that. I'm not going to go through that today. I'm just going to stick this on here as soon as it's done. I'll be back. This is going to take a bit. Okay, so it's all done. So the next step for me to do is to eject it from the system. And I need to see which one it is. Looks like it's SDA. Okay, so then we'll just disconnect it. I have the Pi sitting right here, so I'm just gonna back it up, insert it, power cycle it, and then I will switch screens. So hopefully you can watch along with me if this is going to work or not. I think there it goes. I was waiting for the rainbow pattern to come up, but apparently it was too slow in switching the monitor over to it. I mean, alternatively, if you can't get this to work, you can always put it on an SD card, and it will. That's its preferred way to come up anyway. I just don't on systems like this that like Linux that write a lot. SD cards aren't really set up for that, so it'll take it a moment. It's got to do some initialization and setup before it will actually start the configuration process. Obviously, it doesn't need to install. We just did that. So we'll just wait until we get the initial menu. It will be a minute or so before it comes up. There we go. Okay, so all I got to do is choose my language and my localization options. So it's English. And then my keyboard and country. And then, yes, that's my time zone. Okay. And then I need to enter some information here. So, I mean, hopefully I can pull this across without making a giant mess. All right. Pi UB2. I'll leave it so that I log in. I don't like doing log in automatically necessarily. But now all we're doing is we're just doing a configuration and setting that up. And I'll be back when that's done. Once it's done with that configuration, it'll start applying those changes to the file system. And it's just about done. It doesn't have a whole lot more to do, so I'm just going to kind of let this finish. I was going to try to go through an overclock on this, but my particular Raspberry Pi 4 has a Pi Moroni fan shim, and my attempts to try to install that under Ubuntu 20.10 did not go so well. It was missing some necessary libraries that apparently just the Pi has. So I know that there's a couple of people who have done projects for Kodi in the past, and then there's another popular operating system for the Pi that has been done as well. So I'll probably just wait for that. The fan runs. It just runs all the time. But I'm not quite sure if the utilities are there to actually have it monitor the temperature or not. So, and I don't want to fry the Pi. I'm not sure that I can tell if the temperature is really reading correctly. So I guess that'll take some experimenting and finding out. Normally you can do that with on a Raspberry Pi. You can look at all kinds of things in the proc files, but just need to explore a bit more before I start to overclock on Ubuntu. Oh, that was interesting. It was a number of failures, wasn't it? But we'll see if it comes up. See if it's happy after it does all this installation. Yeah, looks like it did. There she comes. Oh, we're not quite done yet, are we? So let's go over here and do this. Probably for this time, I think I will send this to Canonical. Yeah, at least for a while, then I'll come back and I'll turn it off. But yeah, I think since this is kind of the early days of things, if there's, you know, any bug reports I need to follow, I might just let them know that, hey, this is what I'm running. Since I don't necessarily run a standard thing. So let me move my mug over to the other side. Oops. Over to the other side. And I'm trying to keep from covering up anything. All right, so this looks like very similar to the full build of the Pi that I did previously. Let's go ahead. Now, I know I could have done a Control T, but this should be fine. So let's see. Let's see if I got any update. Yeah, it looks like I do. Now, I could just do what I'm going to do here on the APT, or I could do it through the GUI. Let's do it through the GUI, and let's see how well that's working. Then let's see what updates we have. Just the Firefox browser. Okay, that's cool. I know HTOP is not installed, but we can watch the package install through top. I see it running. Well, that's going on. Let's see what we got here. Let's see if we have any of the Pi utilities at all. Yes, we do. vcgen command is normally how you check to see what your current Pi is, what the CPU is configured to run to. So I think what I will try to do here, let's see, vcgen command. I'll just run it once just to see what it's run, see if it responds to the probably needs to be root. Yep. So yeah, it's showing that it's at now the Pi normally runs at 1.5 gigahertz, and that is what it's showing. So it does. That utility is here at least. So overclocking might work. I can then do a watch. Let's set it to 1 second interval, and then we'll have to do. And then that'll just flip every second and tell us what the frequency is. I'm going to go ahead and open up another one, another window. And we'll take a look and see if that other one is done yet. Looks like it is. And I need to get HTOP. Get, what else would I want? I think that's good. I may try to overclock this. I might do it. I might try it. Since I can see what it is, I'll put that in a shell script, and then I can call that up again pretty easily. Let me get all this stuff installed first, and then I'll just Control C out of here. And let's see. Let's get back home. Watch clock. I'll just put it all under sudo. And we'll just do a shell on it and see if it works. Yeah, I didn't stumble too much on my typing, so that's good. It'll work. So the next thing to find out is, do I have... I watched Martin Windpress's, they did a video a couple of days ago, and they said that all of this was in here. It's in /boot firmware, and there should be a file called config.txt. And normally on the Pi, this is where you would go to overclock the machine. So let's see, do we have an over? He said that some of the more common ones were in here. I'm going to assume that the overclocking probably isn't. All right, so at the, oops. Yeah, it might help to be sudo. Yeah, it might help to be root, because this is owned by root. So, oops. Let me put... okay, so normally you would put in... let's try... The first thing we need is an over voltage. And we'll set it to 2. Let's just go up in increments here and see if I can get it to even overclock at all. There's no sense in setting it on fire initially. We can do that later. So let's see. So that should be it. It should be over voltage 2, and it should be whatever the frequency should be. So I'm going to go ahead and save that, and then we will reboot it. And we'll just see what happens. We'll see if I can push the frequency up to 1750 at first. You should be able to go to 2 gigahertz on most of them. Now, of course, you have the ARM lottery, just like you do with any CPU when you're overclocking. And if you are going to overclock a machine, just expect it to crash. That's going to happen. So if that happens to you and you have to recover your config file, have another computer handy where you can go plug your device in and change the config files, because if you push it too far, you won't be able to boot in to correct the error. So, well, let's just see if we even got a mild overclock to work. I haven't tried this on Ubuntu, so I usually do my overclocking on Raspbian, but I'm not going to get too insane because I'm not sure how well that my bodge job on my cooling solution is going to work. So yeah, there's no sense frying the board just to prove a point. I might just leave it at this. If this works. Yeah, it took it. So we're overclocking. Now, normally what you would do is if you wanted to go to 2 gig, you probably would want to set your voltage to, I'm thinking 8, or no, 6. You'll want to set it to 6. So at least for my notes here that I'm looking at. So yeah, you want to set it to 6. Now you can see that as it's heating up, yeah, my cooling solution is not doing such a great job. So you can see as it's heating up, it's dropping back. So, yeah. I need to work on my cooling solution a little bit. Now, maybe it was doing that even when I was running on just what it is. But if you want to know how to overclock, that's how you do it. You can overclock the Mali, the graphics card, if you want to, but I've talked to the developers at Raspberry Pi, and they tell me that it's really a waste of time. You're really not going to be able to overclock it very much, and it really has very little value, in all honesty. So I don't know if it has any value on Ubuntu. That would be a question for Canonical to answer. I don't know. But I guess maybe the next time I see them on Biddle or on one of the other forums and YouTube sites that do live videos where they show up every once in a while, I might ask them that question. But yeah, I don't know if that has much of an effect on their operating system or not. But I'm just going to leave it here. Let's just see how well this kind of functions here. And we'll go ahead and Control-C out of this. Let's see what we got here. Since we just rebooted. Now this is taken, now ARM is going to take more memory. It's a RISC processor, and RISC machines concatenate instructions to form larger instructions. So it's just different in the way that, so if you're going to compare this to an x86, you can't. It's apples and oranges. But this is taking 860 megabytes of memory. So it's still not bad. I mean, I don't count that as bad at all. It's still, I have an 8 gig machine here. I still have plenty of headroom to play with. So I'm really not all that concerned about it. There's a lot I can do with this machine, but I'm not sure how well it's going to perform. So let's see how much storage. Let's see. I have two questions here. Did it expand the drive? And, ooh, that must be a 1 terabyte drive. I was wrong. Wow, that's a little bit bigger than I expected. So 5.6 gig. I'll probably take this drive back and use it for something else. I didn't realize it was a terabyte. Yeah, so I've got a terabyte of storage and there's probably quite a bit I can do with this. So I'm going to leave this overclock in place, and let's see if we can crash it. Let's yeah, hello. Oh, there it is. All right. Let's go to YouTube. And got too many mice around me here. So pardon me while I fumble around a little bit. We'll see if we can find the ubiquitous. Oops. I'm feeling a little lag in Firefox. Let's see, this one's looks like it's 4K I doubt this will work, but we'll try it. Let me turn on stats for nerds here. Well, hello, there we go. Yeah, it's a little sluggish. Well, let's see how this is doing. This is running at 850. So this is just running at an optimal setting, which that seems fine, but that's not what we really want to see, is it? It's 840. Yeah, I would hope it would handle that. Let's try going up to 1060. A little buffering, of course, because we're forcing it to change. Let's just see. Oh. Yeah, it's dropping frames. Dropping a lot of frames. It's dropping a heck of a lot of frames. Okay, well, I guess Firefox is probably not going to be the right tool for this job. We probably should go get Chromium and try that. Yeah, that's not too good. So I don't know if I want to spend the time doing that today. But so the things that I wanted to test were, if I use a USB drive, SSD, will Ubuntu expand it? And the answer is yes. The second question I wanted to answer today was, could I overclock the machine? And is there enough of the Raspberry Pi utilities to allow me to do it in a familiar way? And the answer is yes. So I want to do a couple other things before I close out, and that is to run Linus like I always do, because Linus does have an ARM version. I mean, it is actually, I think it's PHP based, so it'll pretty much run on anything. It doesn't really care, but we can go do that. So while we're waiting on that, so the two things I wanted to find out is how could I move it off of an SD card, which yes, I can. And yes, it is working. So Yeah, I think it's all in all, it's pretty good. I was able to get the overclock to work, so. Now now Linus will complain when it's on an ARM machine for a couple of reasons, but mainly because there is no grub. There's no grub bootloader. But I don't know what it's going to find here on Ubuntu, so I'm kind of curious as to what it will find in terms of the repos, whether or not there's a security repo and all of that kind of thing that Linus will check for. 33 running processes. This is, yeah, I think this could stand to be overclocked a little bit more. I bet you if I look at the CPU, let's see if that's a CPU problem or if it's just. It's just what, yeah, it's definitely, well, yeah, some of the, no, not really. These are, I think these are ARM Core 72s, I think, if I remember right. And of course, that's, yeah, those are BCM CPUs from Qualcomm. That's in the Pies. Not the fastest CPUs in the world, but they do all right. I mean, I mean, you can do a lot of good things with a Pi, besides turning on Rocco's "We're Open for Business" light. And you definitely could do that with this, definitely. I noticed that when it was doing the install that it was looking, and it did find the GPIO header. So obviously you can do some IoT with this. Just because it's little and cheap, don't discount a Pi. You get enough of them and you can outrun anything. You put enough of them together, you can outrun any x86. Unless they put all theirs together with the same number of cores. Of course, well, it costs them a whole lot more money than it is you. But yeah, don't discount a Pi. Don't discount ARM just because they're cheap. People made that mistake years ago with the mainframes when the PCs were rolling in. They made that same mistake back then, and it wasn't more than about 8 years later, all the PC people were taking over all the IT jobs, and the former mainframe IT people were out trying to re-educate themselves on how to and learning about the PC. So I was not one of those, but I do remember it. Wow, that was a lot of findings. 65. Or maybe it was just scrolling through it. Yeah, there's quite a bit here, but nothing that's out of the normal yet. Yeah, this is pretty typical. Considering hardening the system proof. I wonder if it. Yeah, it's. Now on ARM, these are all wrong. I mean, the default settings are all wrong, and so yeah, we'd have to customize my script. I have a script that fixes all this, but I would, yeah, it's just gonna needs a little customization for this. This is not Canonical's fault. This is just normal stuff that you have to do. You start out with a baseline somewhere, and then you work your way up. But you know, it's still running. That's pretty amazing. I guess the only other thing to do, let's find out if let's see, apt search open SSH server. see if it's installed. No. Okay, we'll do that. I might want to try, now this has got GNOME on it, so I would have to change, if I want to run X2Go, yeah, X2Go still doesn't support GNOME. So if I wanted to run X2Go, I would have to run a different desktop environment or window manager. I don't know what ones I have. I guess let's go explore. Why not? We're in here. Let's go do it. Let's see if Mate is here. Well, I should have probably done my parameters a lot better than that. I kind of slapped over into a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah, it's there. At least some of it is. Let me try to go the other way. Oh my goodness. Get through. Oh, I just saw it. Yeah, I just saw it. I'll scroll back up to it. I went flying right by it. I'm good at that. That's why they put scroll wheels on mice, by the way. Yeah, it's here. So I could put that on. Let's see, is XFCE here? Just so, yep. Cool. So now the last question is, this is personal. And what version is it if it is here? Usually it's usually Ubuntu has it on their server stuff. So yeah, the libraries are here. It's 8.1. Wow, that's a little bit behind. Current version is 8.4. It'll still work as long as I don't get back to 7.3. I think if I drop back that far, I don't think it'll be able to see my cluster. But that should be okay. There's been so many changes to the protocol recently with the newer versions of it. And yeah, cluster is a heck of a lot faster than it used to be. But let's see, what else did I want to know? X2Go probably, huh? Yep. Well, X2Go, nothing client. There's the server, a printer. There's the server, there's a client. Yeah. 3.2. But the client is 4.122, and that's fine. So, yeah, that's fine. That will work just fine, just fine. So, I'm not going to do that today. Most of the questions that I was interested in have really been answered. I am kind of curious, though. Is the version of GNOME different? .38, no. So not bad. I'm running at. This is running at 1920 by 1080, 60 FPS, I think. Do I have this? Yeah, I do. Let's just bring that up. Just to validate that it is 60 hertz. Yeah, it is. So, you know, it's not bad. I wonder if fractional scaling works on a Mali. Woohoo! Yes, it does. Awesome. The problem, the only problem that you have with the low-end ARM chips like this is the Mali is really a garbage graphics processor. It's absolute garbage, but for performance. But yeah, my impressions. Let me turn off the mini-me. I think that, I mean, I wouldn't use an ARM chip as a desktop unless it was the NVIDIA. This, just based on what I saw in the video performance and its ability, I haven't done any extensive transcoding tests yet, but I probably will. But from what I've seen of it so far, it's lackluster. I mean, it is certainly not a desktop replacement. It's kind of fun to play with it, but normally what I do with ARM Raspberry Pis is I'll put Ubuntu server on it, and that's probably the next thing I will do is put 2010 server on this and run it from an SSD device as well, plugged in. Now, USB is not optimal. I mean, the best I can get is, I think, 500 megabytes a second. 5 gig per second off of that. I wish I could get up to the 10 and higher, the higher USB speeds, but I mean, what do you want for $79? I mean, if you want that, go get yourself a one of the low end devices like the N4105 CPUs from Intel. But those would work quite well. Anyway, that's all I had today. Just a really short video. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like and subscribe. And I hope to see you all again real soon. Bye for now.